Hi folks, welcome to 8-Bit Retro Journal. I'm playing here with my Amiga today, and I actually have a modern reason to do so. So every year I get the opportunity to teach a operating systems class to students, and in the past I've used some of my old 8-bit gear to demonstrate multitasking that operating systems support, mainly because older machines that are slower and have less resources, it's easier to do that. If you're trying to do this on a modern Windows or Linux machine, it's really hard to show preemptive multitasking and task control especially. I mean, you can show that two tasks run at the same time, but it's really hard to understand, especially with multi-threaded and multi-processor machines, what's actually going on. And with older machines, you can show the process control of having two programs running and slowing one down, speeding the other one up. Whereas with modern machines, it's really hard to do that. So I've done that in the past. I both preemptive, like the Amiga has, as well as cooperative. Every year I use my PowerBook 180 to demonstrate cooperative multitasking. And again, if you've followed my channel, you also know that I've hacked the kernel back in the 90s on the Macintosh to give it a bit more process control. So, and it was a very successful product that actually, was up for awards back in the mid 90s, especially in the foreign market. And and by the way, when you say you hack a kernel, you're doing that because obviously the company, Apple, isn't going to give you their source code, so you can't necessarily change things the way you should. So you have to figure out a way to access it through decompilation, or what I did is I trapped some of so the 68,000 allows for trap calls where you can, and if you have system calls, you can sort of trap them and expand on them. And that's kind of what I did. Now, you can look at plenty of videos on my channel. One, I explain how I did it. I'll post here. That kind of goes through, what I did. And then if you want to see kind of how it works, I'll put another one right here. That kind of shows you how it works. In any case, so yeah, I like to use old machines to show students multitasking. So I've been working on the Amiga, and it's a little frustrating. Let me show you why. So I've got so the lines and basics come from Workbench 1.3, but no, they work. I currently have the basic one paused, so that works, but it works kind of in a weird way. And let me demonstrate this. First of all, this is the Amiga shell, and I can do status. But you'll see that the Amiga basic and lines doesn't come on. So there's not much you can do. Supposedly you have to start the process within the shell, but I've tried to start lines and basic and it just doesn't start. So that one's a no-go. But I did find ZShell, and that's a nice little shell that gives you task control. I also found another program called Executive, which is vast and gives you Unix-like priority control. It acts a little weird though, and I'm going to do a separate video on Executive because it's kind of this vast one that gives you a PS command, kill command, as well as a nice and renice command. And so they're trying to add to the kernel. I don't know how they do it, and I'm actually interested in it because you'll see in this video that I'm going to try to I think I'm going to have to try to do this as well, because right now it doesn't work the way I'd like to. So let me show you what ZShell does. It has a command show, and you can do all sorts of shows, but show T is show tasks. And here they are. And you can see that lines and so I have Amiga based at -128. So the way processes work, priorities work on the Amiga is they range from -128 to 127. 0 is considered the base and normal, and then -128 is the lowest. So you'd think you set a process to -128 like I did with Amiga Basic, and it stops. But watch this. If I say it's what's the command now? Oops. Yeah, task priority. Huh. And if I set, 128, if I set lines to that as well, you'd think both of them would stop. However, it actually makes the basic one start up again. And if you do if you look at the show command again, notice that most of these processes are in wait state. So I think what's happening is that these are competing against each other, and since they have the same priority, well, the shell is also running though, but I guess it's not using very much processing power, and so I wonder if, yeah, I don't know if typing a command slows things down. Let's do a show T again. It does slow those down. It does stop those completely. But still, I would want to have them stop at the lowest priority. In any case, I can set, I'll set lines back to 0. So that's task priority 0 for lines. And that makes basic stop. Now, if I set task priority for basic also to Amiga Basic, to 0 for Amiga Basic, and you actually have to spell it properly, so they both work again. Now if I set, so here's where it gets weird. So I'm going to set lines to negative 128. Task priority negative 128 lines, stop. Now if I set task priority not to 0 but to -1, task priority -1, you'd think that, oh, it should start going again, but it doesn't. Not until I set it to 0 and then -1 will it go. So somehow the executive kernel, even though it's now 0 and -1, they're literally just one apart, it still stopped. So if I go task priority 0 lines, and then I go task priority -1 lines, oh, it still stops. Yeah, I don't understand why it would stop. So task priority 0 lines, task priority -1 Amiga Basic, and it stops. Yeah, I don't understand why. They're literally, it's only a slightly lower, I guess if you go task priority -2 lines, and so now, yeah, so they just keep jumping. But all right, let's try this. Task priority -128 lines, task priority -128 Amiga Basic, and then let's set them to somewhere in the negatives, -64. Oh, so now they're running. So I guess if you're below normal, yeah. So again, this is really odd. So now you have 64 and 1. No, they're both still task priority -64. Oh, maybe I misspelled it. I thought I was able to task priority -64 Amiga Basic, task priority -32 lines. Yeah, it just literally stops. I've seen it. Yeah, I wonder if is it something that I have to activate with a mouse. Oh wow, and it's actually now frozen. So playing with priorities is not, yeah. So literally, this is frozen now. What I've actually discovered is that if you set the priority to, yeah, let me reset all this, and just to show you one other thing that I've seen. And again, I don't think it's ZShell, because all it's doing is setting priorities. I think it's the executive kernel. If you know otherwise, let me know, but I'm going to come back to this. Hold on. All right, I'm back, and I reset everything up that we had before. And again, so these all have now 0 priorities, but the other weird thing I've seen is if I set the priority of either one, lines or basic, I'll set it lines. If I say task priority, set it to 2. Again, it ranges from -128 to 127. Set it to 2 for lines. First of all, notice that the shell stops working. And then I think even I can get it sometimes. Yep. And now the mouse stops working. I'm like, I don't know. It's just very And again, all ZShell is doing is setting those process priorities. It's not doing anything else. When I was running the executive suite of programs, it was trying to do extra stuff, but this is not. So it's very disheartening that the executive kernel for preemptive multitasking, I guess you can't set priorities. So I don't think I can show this to my students, but let me see if I can't figure out how the executive kernel works and if I can maybe hack it and fix it. So let me come back to that in a week or so to see what I can do. All right, it's been a couple of weeks, and I came up with a solution. I don't know if I like it or not, but I'm not using ZShell this time, but both tasks are stopped, and I have a jobs command here now. And you can see that I'm only now showing the tasks that are running, not the waiting tasks. So we have, and now the priorities go from 0 to 255 instead of negatives. So 0 is a stop. So if I do a set priority jobs on lines, so 1, 0, 2, let's say 32, SP job 1, 0 to 32, you can see that it starts bouncing again. And if I do the same with SP job 2 to 32, then they both start working. But you can see the basic is much slower now because, so if I go SP job 2, 1, 64, so now I'm making the basic faster, and you'll see that it's slightly faster. What do we got here? SP job 2, 1, let's make it 128. Oops. You can see the basic now is going much faster. Now I have some real job control, and the lines are still working. If I make the lines slower, SP job 1, 0, 2, let's say 16, you can see that the lines have slowed down and the things are going faster. I can even slow the lines down even more. SP job, let's make it 4. And you can see it's going tick. I know it's hard to see, but you'll see it. Let me speed this up first. SP job 1, 0, 128. I want to wait till it gets back to black. Right now it's gray, and I think it's easier. SP job 1, 0, 4. There it goes. It's in white, and you can see now it's ticking much slower. So I have the job control I wanted, and I can also make the job SP job 2, 1. I can give it 255. And it doesn't crash the system. I'm still, so it's a very solid kernel. The lines are going really slow now because there's a huge difference between, and again, if I want to SP job 1, 0, I can make, let's say 64, and it's going to go a little faster. But now there's a difference between jobs can actually run, yeah, you can see that. And I can control the jobs. SP job 2, 1, I'm going to say, let's make it 128. So it's, yeah, so you can see that the lines, and again, the lines are taking up, yeah, so we can probably slow the lines down a little bit. SP job 1, 0, let's make them 16, and now you can see the lines are going, yeah, and so I actually have some job control, and yeah, it sort of works. And like I said, I can pause both jobs, give it 0 priority, and they both stop, and my system is solid, it's not crashing. So yeah, that's my solution. I'm not happy with the solution. So you might be wondering, well, what did I do? And the answer is, here from the future, when I was first working on this video, it was actually early March, and the intent was to actually fix it so that I could demo the Amiga's multitasking kernel to my students. And you'll see that my solution, which I'm about to reveal to you, I didn't actually end up using that because it wasn't quite what I wanted. And I actually chose to then hold off and wait until April 1st to post this video. I hope that you enjoy it. It's not a video. I sort of stopped doing April Fool's videos because people didn't like them. You know, last year I did a misdirection video where I was showing an emulator which was inside of an emulator, which then was inside of another emulator. It was sort of an inception kind of video, and people like that. And so I think my solution here will be very similar to that. I'm going to do more with the exec kernel on the Amiga and look at the executive program suite, because that seems to be doing something more than just adjusting priorities. And of course, right now I'm working on another video on the Amiga, looking at the game Room, which was originally designed on the QL and then ported on the Amiga, and it's kind of a fun game. So you'll see more Amiga content coming up. So yeah, let's go back to the past or the present. I don't actually know which one it is. So I was unable to bring a better and improved kernel to the Amiga. So what I did instead is I brought the Amiga to a better kernel, I guess is one way to say it. So let me reveal what I did just to show you. So let me zoom out. Yeah, so what I did is instead of I was trying to see if I could do anything with the exec kernel, but problem is it's been 30 some years, the documentation is there, but to get that kind of help is problematic. And I realized that there might be, I only care about this 90s machine. I know that Amiga OS has been modified and there's a modern version, but I'm looking at this old version. But in any case, I actually ended up using my QL, which has a nice kernel, and I prototyped a Workbench like interface on the QL. So this is actually running on the QL. That's why. And the QL has windowing, part of the operating system. It just doesn't have widgets and screens, and so I just quickly prototyped something for that. The mouse doesn't work because I don't have a mouse for this. But yeah, this is actually the jobs command that comes with Toolkit 2, and I just I was able to create a couple of windows that does that. And so basically the idea of bringing the Amiga Workbench to the QL. It's not a fully working model. Now, the QL does have a thing called pointer environment that gives you widgets and a mouse, so I could port that to that and basically create a Workbench like shell. Now, the lines and basics aren't actually the Amiga lines and basics. I actually found some open source or publicly available ones, I should say, and just recompiled them. So this is actually very much like the old school Unix, when you used to share software between Unix platforms that weren't all identical by getting the source code and recompiling. That's what I had to do here. So it's not a clean solution, and I already had to do the lecture to my students. I didn't end up showing them that. I actually showed them the Amiga, yeah, they had fun, but wasn't able to do the operating system stuff because it was so kludgy. But yeah, so here you could have a beautiful Workbench environment, preemptive multitasking kernel, but a bit more stable. And this is actually, by the way, why it ran so slow, because the QL obviously is about half the speed of the Amiga because of its 8-bit data bus. But let's put them both at 128 and see them run very slowly. And in fact, you can tweak it because the lines will actually run just fine if I slow this down to like 32. Oops, SP job. I forgot a comma. But yeah, so you can see now the lines are running a little better, and the lines are still running. So, but yeah, so that was kind of one way to kind of try to fix the shortcomings of the exec kernel. Again, like my Amiga, would love to be able to see if I could improve it. Now, I use this executive suite for the exec kernel, and it does some weird stuff as well. And I'll do a separate video on that. So there is a way to hack into the exec kernel, because I think that's what they did. But there's got to be a way to improve it to make it as stable as what the QL has. And so that's really, kind of what well, it's always my base, because again, the QL is my first experience with preemptive on a personal computer. Obviously, I used Unix systems before then. And I've showed this to my students, not with this interface, but just with the QL's interface. But anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys today. Let me know what you think. And if, again, Workbench 2.1 and the exec kernel from the 80s and early 90s, is there any other tool I could use to make it work better and not hang so much? Because I tried a bunch of applications and all kind of worked the same way. I also tried it on the emulator and it did the same thing. So yeah, I'm a little stuck here. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this. I will do more on multitasking on the Amiga just to get deeper into it. And maybe someday I'll hack the kernel like I did on the Macintosh. So anyway, I'll leave you here. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.